Talking Shirts is presented in partnership with White Oak Cottage. For more information, visit whiteoakcottage.co.uk.
Hello and welcome. This is episode number 149 of Talking Shirts. I'm Mike of Hull KR Shirts, and today we're going to take a look at this 2025 Hull KR home shirt, which was match issued to Jack Broadbent for the 2025 Betfred Challenge Cup Final. Now, I have to start off by saying that this shirt didn't actually see any match action at Wembley Stadium on the 7th of June in 2025. This is a spare shirt or a match issue shirt. This is the one that, had there been an issue with Jack's main shirt, then this is the one that he would have worn. Now, his shirt that he wore that day is most certainly almost within his possession or within his family's possession, and that's exactly where match worn shirts from major finals should be. So I'm absolutely over the moon to be able to add a spare or a match issue shirt from that final into my collection. I've said it a few times now, but the 2025 home shirt really isn't a design that I'm massively in love with. When I look at it, there's just a lot going on, and it's not something that really has kind of taken to me. However, it's going to be forever etched in my brain because it's going to be known as the treble shirt. So we'll talk a little bit about the shirt before we move on to the final, and we will talk a little bit about Jack as well. This could quite possibly be one of the longest episodes of Talking Shirts ever, and I don't think you can quite blame me for making it as long as I probably will. So, you know, when you're looking at that duration now, I apologise if it is quite a long one. So yeah, the 2025 home shirt. It's a predominantly white-based shirt, and we've got an awful lot of red detailing that goes with it as well, and we will talk our way through that now. So the red detailing, it kind of starts at the upper body of the shirt. It's sort of shoulder detailing. One of my main criticisms around it is that the detailing on the replica is different to that on this player spec style shirt. On the replica, part of this shoulder design does go onto the sleeve as well, but we don't actually get that feature on these player spec shirts. At the top here, we have got these white lines that go through, and then we've also got this white overstitch, which isn't actually part of the design, although it looks like it probably should be. From here, we have a sash that starts on the left-hand side as wearing, that then just progress all the way down into that bottom corner there. I think we've known it in the past as like a broken sash, obviously because of the sponsor. I think that might have been a term that was coined by Les of Hull City Kits, and that is, for me, it's not a design that I enjoy seeing on a Hull KR shirt. Obviously we did do it back in 2011 as well, and there's just something about it. I love it on some foreign teams, River Plate for example, the Argentinian side. It really does suit their sort of design aesthetics, but when it comes to Hull KR, I understand the creativity and the element of trying to do something that is a little bit different, but for me, it's not really something that I enjoy seeing personally on a Hull KR shirt. But most people will say, Mike, just shut up, we won the treble in it. And for that, you know, I fully get it. But for me, I like to try and look at the aesthetics beyond a success or a favourite memory or something to that effect, opposed to actually judging it for winning trophies, silverware, major finals, that kind of thing. So either way, there isn't a right or a wrong. It is purely just down to a personal preference. Other design elements that we've got going on here, so we have got the collar cuff, so that goes all the way around as you would imagine it to. But then where it meets in the middle here, we have got this diamond of fabric with a robin icon that has been dye sublimated in, which has been sort of stitched into the design. Now, that was a little bit of a weakness. You know, we will see some of the players where that had completely split. The one that jumps straight to my mind is Mikey Lewis after the Betfred Super League Grand Final this year. You could see that had clearly torn during max action. This one here, as I've explained, is a match spare, and I think this shirt was probably a brand new shirt going into the final, so it really hasn't got any signs of damage or wear to it at all. It is in really good condition. We've got the dye sublimated elements to the front of the shirt, which is the IRS sponsor that appears on both of the old collar slots, which is kind of in that collarbone spot now. We have got Colscath, we've got Oxen, which is your maker marker, the Hull KR Club crest, and then we've got Connexen front of shirt sponsor. Obviously 2025 was their final year as a front of shirt sponsor, but it's absolutely brilliant that they have committed to the club for a few more years as a back of shirt sponsor. I think that lower back spot is a really good position to have, especially if you think of how a game of rugby league is played in terms of how people's tackle technique is, there'll be a lot of coverage that they'll get on photos and video, on top of obviously having many years as a front of shirt sponsor as well. The one thing that you will notice on here is the embroidery that we've got. Now, this match detail was specifically for the Betfred Challenge Cup Final. So this one says Warrington Wolves versus Hull KR, the Betfred Challenge Cup Final, Wembley Stadium on the 7th of June 2025. Now, a little bit of a story, I guess. The spare shirts for the Betfred Challenge Cup Final, they weren't actually embroidered at the time. Now, the reason that we know this is because Eagle-Eyed Mike here, when I was watching the cup final, I probably noticed it on the day, to be honest. Petter Hiku and Joe Burgess, they swapped their shirts at half time, which meant that when they came out for the second half, they didn't have any embroidery on their chest. So anybody that started the game with embroidery and finished the game with embroidery on their chest, that meant that they wore that one shirt for the 80-minute period of that game. Whereas because Joe and Petter, they swapped, they actually had two match-worn shirts from that game, opposed to actually having a match-worn and a spare shirt, which is obviously what this one is here. The club got these embroidered after the fact, based on that information. So anybody that's got one of these, I think sponsors probably had a good opportunity to sort of get a Wembley spare shirt. You know, these have been embroidered after the fact, which, you know, okay, it's quite nice to have something as it was meant to be in terms of the embroidery not being on the shirt. But, you know, when it was such a momentous occasion, you can fully understand why the club would then go on and obviously get those embroidered at a later date. So that's been the front. Let's have a little bit of a look at the sides, because there is some interesting elements for us to be able to talk about here. So on this left sleeve as wearing, we have got Keepmo. Their branding has been dye sublimated in, and we've had those on the sleeve now for a couple of years. In 2024 it was heat applied because it was a late edition sponsor, whereas in 2025 they'd committed well ahead of time, which meant that that could be on the sleeve. And then below that we have got Latest. Now this is the branded sponsorship of the Latest group. The brothers both who had connections with Hull KR through a playing career, which goes back, well, you know, all the way through to the sort of 2009, 10, 11. Sam played in 2012 as well. So, you know, it was sort of in the early sort of 2010s where these guys were associated with the club. These guys have gone on after a playing career to go on and create their own very successful business. They've been invited onto the board of directors at Hull KR, and their branded sponsorship now features on the sleeve of this Challenge Cup Final, which, you know, for them must be an absolutely amazing honour to be able to have that heat applied to the sleeve. When you see those pictures of Rovers lifting that first piece of silverware in 40 years, their branding's on there. So yeah, that must have been a really sort of appealing opportunity that they were presented with when, you know, they had the opportunity to have their branding appear on this shirt. And as we look round to the other side, we have got the University of Hull, again another sponsor, which has been on Hull KR shirts now for a few years. It was heat applied for the first time in 2023, and then it was dye sublimated in 24 and again in 25. So as you can see, underneath that we have got this Betfred Challenge Cup competition patch. This has been heat applied. There is nothing on here that states that there has been more than one patch. It is literally just a one and done job. As I've said, these shirts, to me, this one, it looks brand new. I don't think it saw any element of match action prior to it being prepared for the Challenge Cup Final. So I'm quite confident in being able to say that this just has no element of wear to it other than it being a spare shirt for probably the biggest game in the club's history at that point. So that's been the front and the sides. We'll have a quick word from our sponsor and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about the Challenge Cup Final and Super Jack.
White Oak Cottage is a 2-bedroom luxury holiday cottage set in the stunning Lincolnshire Wolds. It has 2 ensuite bedrooms, a hot tub, wood burner, Wi-Fi, electric vehicle charger and is pet friendly. It is ideally situated in the Wolds, yet only 15 miles from the coast and 25 miles from the historic city of Lincoln. For more information, visit whiteoakcottage.co.uk.
Welcome back to episode number 149 of Talking Shirts. Here we are with Jack Broadbent's 2025 Betfred Challenge Cup Final spare shirt, and now we're going to talk our way around this reverse. So looking at the back of the shirt here, it is predominantly white, but it does have some of the red detailing from the front continue onto the back. So we spoke about the shoulder design, and that does kind of just creep into the back of this shirt here. You'll notice that we've got this straight line going across, and it is broken up by these white over stitches as well, which we spoke about on the first half. Those are raglan sleeves on these shirts, and those over stitches do just kind of break up the red sort of design element. Within that red design element, we have got the Robin icon, which for me is a brilliant size. It's not too small, it's not too big. It's kind of hitting the sweet spot there in terms of its size on the back of the shirt. Below that, we have got Harrison Soler. Their branding features in red on the white background. Looks absolutely brilliant. They allowed their branding to be manipulated in terms of its colour to boost the aesthetics of the shirt, and for that we thank you so much. It looks amazing. And then at the bottom we have got Higher Base. Very fortunate that their branding is red, so they haven't had to do any sort of brand manipulation in terms of their colour, but still it looks so good in red on that back of the white shirt. As you can see, we've got Broadbent and squad number 18 that's been heat applied onto the back of the shirt. The closeness of the letters tells me that the word Broadbent was likely a name block, and what I mean by that is it's one piece of vinyl with Broadbent spelled out on it, rather than a case of having to apply each letter individually. You may look at some players who joined the club partway through the season, players like Arthur Morg and Noah Booth. Their names, when they're applied to the back of a shirt, does have an element of human error in terms of the positioning, just because you're having to position all the letters individually, whereas the closeness of this, you can tell that this has been done as in name block. Underneath that, we have got squad number 18. That was Jack's squad number for that 2025 season. It received quite the promotion, if you like, obviously coming partway through 2024. He was squad number 36 then. He's gone down to 18 for 25, and he's had another promotion into 2026 where he'll be squad number 14. So his progression as being a player that was kind of signed on the fringes, who then has kind of integrated himself into that first team squad now, going on and making 45 appearances in his 18 months at the club, which is very, very good going for somebody who, when he signed, I think a lot of people were like, well, who's he? I think he's gone and proved to every single Hull KR fan that he is worth his weight in gold in terms of his position within our matchday squad. So yeah, that's kind of the shirt. Let's talk a little bit about Jack. As I've said there, you know, he's made 45 appearances for us so far in 18 months. In that time, he scored 24 tries. A guy that's a multi-functional player in terms of the positions that he's able to play. He has played at the fullback, he's played at the wing, he's played at centre, he's also played in the halves as well. And at some point I would not be surprised to see him trying his hand at hooker. He just seems to be a player who Willie Peters trusts and is able to put him in many situations, which often comes out in a very positive outcome for Hull KR. If you can cast your mind back all the way to the beginning of 2025, it was about a year ago as of now, Jack was one of a few first team players that pulled on a shirt in the Amsterdam Challenge. Now that group of players was made up quite a bit of reserve, academy, fringe players, but there was a few first teamers that was kind of scattered around in there, and Jack was one of those. He made an appearance in the 2024 Betfred Super League final, keeping Oliver Gildart out of the squad. And when we got into 25, you kind of thought it was possibly going to be another similar season for Jack. But after 4 games, Nye Levels leaves the club, and we bring in Arthur Morg. The issue with that is that Arthur Morg is cup tied. Nye Levels played in that first game for us against York in that first round of the cup, but Jack didn't have that opportunity. But what it did give him the opportunity was that Jack was going to be our fullback for the cup run. Arthur Morg came in and kind of made that fullback position his own in terms of that 2025 Super League season. He was ineligible to play in the cup, which kind of meant that that was Jack's shirt. He knew that he was going to be playing fullback all the way through the competition from that point forward. He actually scored a try in every single round apart from the final, which shows you how impactful his contribution was in that cup run. You know, we had memorable wins. We played Oldham at Craven Park. After that, we then went and beat Hull FC on their own turf. After that, we went and played the Catalan Dragons in York, the second time that we played on that pitch. And then obviously, you know, we set up the final against Warrington Wolves on the 7th of June, which obviously was just an absolutely brilliant brilliant atmosphere. To be able to watch Hull KR win at Wembley is something that I will never forget. I said from the off, if I had one opportunity to see Hull KR win a trophy in my lifetime, I would be absolutely smitten at the fact. So the fact that I've had that experience 3 times in a little under 6 months, it just absolutely blows my mind. And Jack really did play his part in that Wembley showpiece as well. You know, we had a little bit of a scare early on where there was a little bit of a, you know, an interference, and, you know, we thought that something might go against us, but, you know, fortunately, you know, but we had the wherewithal at the end of the game to be able to go on and just sort of steal it from under the nose of the Warrington Wolves, and really did catapult us into having a fantastic season. As I've said, you know, not just the Challenge Cup, but, you know, Jack's contribution throughout has been absolutely exemplary, and he's the sort of guy who you need in your squad. He definitely fights above his weight in terms of his contribution to the salary cap, and probably his experience in the game of rugby league as well. You know, he could go on to be a very special player at Hull KR, and it's something that I'm sure that a lot of us Rovers fans do wish that we continue seeing Jack playing in a Hull KR shirt for many, many, many years to come. So yeah, that's been your tour around this Challenge Cup Final spare shirt. One that I'm, as I've said, absolutely thrilled to be able to own as part of the Hull KR shirts collection. Shirts from cup finals and things like that are often quite hard to come by, and especially with the occasion as momentous as this one was, it's something that, you know, is a part of the collection now forever, and I will really hold sort of quite dear. You know, we've been able to digitise it in terms of being able to present it on this video as well. I'll make sure that I pop some pictures up on Hull KR shirts across social media and on the website as well. So if anybody would like a closer look at sort of the match detailing and just the sort of the design elements that go into things like that, I'd love to be able to share more and more of that with people. So we're heading down the track now. We're hitting a bit of a milestone, aren't we? The next episode of Talking Shirts is going to be number 150, and I have been saving a shirt for this episode. Anybody that's got the Hull KR shirts calendar, you'll see what the month of January had to offer you when you opened it up, and that's the shirt that we're going to cover. It's the oldest shirt within Hull KR shirts collection, and it's got an amazing story about how that shirt did come into my possession. So yeah, we're going to have a good chat. Like I say, this is quite a long episode, and I wouldn't be surprised if episode number 150 was just as long as well. Like I say, anybody that does make it to the end, then you know, I do respect you a lot. You must have a passion for the cotton and the polyester that Hull KR have donned across their many years of existence. Thank you very much for checking us out. I really do appreciate it. I'll be back in a fortnight with episode number 150. Bye for now.